We can start now.
Okay, hello and welcome everyone to our November general meeting. I call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. We have quorum, so now we'll move on to roll call. District 1, Commissioner Mishra.
Present.
District 2, Commissioner Pradeep Kumar.
Present.
District 3, Commissioner Sanchez.
Present.
District 4, Commissioner Arroyo.
Present.
District 5, Commissioner Liu.
Present.
District 6, Commissioner Bansal.
Present.
District 7, Commissioner Vu.
Present.
District 8, Commissioner Gonzalez Munoz.
Present.
District 9, Commissioner Singh.
Present.
District 10, Present. Citywide Commissioner Kucherowski.
Present.
We will now move on to item 2, consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Commissioner Gonzalez Munoz approves.
Any seconds?
Commissioner Pradeep Kumar seconds that.
We'll now vote on approving the consent calendar. And the vote passes unanimously. So now we will move on to item 3, public record. Do we have any public record or correspondence today?
No, we don't.
Okay, we will move on to item 4, open forum. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on an item not on today's agenda?
No, we don't.
Okay, then we will move on to action item 5A, informational City of San Jose budget overview given by Ms. Claudia Chang.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Claudia Chang. I'm a Deputy Director in the Budget Office. I am pleased to provide you a presentation on the budget. This will be a brief overview of the 2024-2025 adopted budget, and then I will discuss the process we go through to develop the budget. The budget is a financial plan for delivering effective services and efficiently managing the resources that support these services. The annual budget has 2 primary components, the operating budget and the capital budget, and it totals $6.1 billion. This is not all new money, as the budget includes funds that are carried over from the previous year. The operating budget is made up of funds in the general fund and special funds. So if you look at the pie, it's the dark blue and gray parts. The operating budget includes direct services and support functions in the community. For example, money set aside to pay for staff to maintain parks or to operate community centers and provide recreation programs are included in the operating budget. If it was a priority to extend hours at the branch libraries or to add police officers in the budget, those proposals would be included in the operating budget. The focus is almost always on the general fund, which is the fund used to track the general revenues and expenditures of the city, which are not considered special or capital funds. For example, San Jose's portion of revenue from property tax and sales tax are deposited in the general fund. Police and fire services, as well as neighborhood services, such as those provided at libraries, parks, are mainly funded in the general fund. Money in the general fund is allocated at the discretion of City Council. One-time funding for the annual awards dinner for youth commissioners is from the general fund. Special funds, which is the great part, have a distinct function or enterprise. The source could be from a specific tax, license, fee, or other earmarked revenue sources. Operations in the special funds are self-supporting, wherein the expenditures are offset by the fees and charges for services, grants, and revenue sources other than the general fund. Examples of special funds are the San Jose Clean Energy Operating Fund, the San Jose Santa Clara Treatment Plant Operating Fund, and the Storm Sewer Operating Fund. Funding to account for the operations at the airport is budgeted in various special funds. The American Rescue Plan Fund and the Coronavirus Relief Funds are operating funds used to support response and recovery during COVID-19. Capital funds, which is in the light blue, are used to track resources to acquire, rehabilitate, or construct city facilities and infrastructure. Construction and Conveyance Tax Fund, Building and Structure Construction Tax Fund, Public Safety and Infrastructure Bond Fund are a few examples of these types of funds. The neighborhood fire station being renovated down the street from your house, the new police fire training center being constructed, or the newly paved trail along Coyote Creek Trail are budgeted in the capital budget. This slide provides a picture of the general fund sources. There are over 450 revenue sources in the general fund. Property tax and sales tax revenues will always be the city's two largest sources, generating close to $850 million, or 40% of the budget. Property tax is mainly from secured property, like homes, cars, business equipment, boats, land, and even jewelry. The city projects to collect over $500 million this fiscal year. Sales tax is the second highest revenue source and is projected to bring in close to $350 million. The sales tax in San Jose is 9.375%, of which the city of San Jose gets a little bit more than 1.25% of the tax collected. The fund balance carryover, which is the gray pie, is over $660 million, or 27% of the budget. The majority of this is rebudgeted or carried over from one fiscal year to another to complete projects. Money is also rebudgeted so that we can continue setting aside money for the city's contingency reserve, which is like a rainy day fund. A small portion of the fund balance carryover is related to last fiscal year, where we either had more revenues collected than we expected or expenditure savings. Utility tax, which is based on gas, electricity, water, and telephone usage, and business tax, like cannabis, card room, general business tax, are also small sources of revenue for the general fund. You'll notice that the overhead reimbursement, which is about 4% of the money, and it's recovered from special and capital funds. It's their share of indirect general fund support costs that benefit city programs and activities. Support services are provided by departments such as finance, HR, human resources, information technology department, the city attorney's office, and even the city manager's office. Lastly, the other category makes up close to 19% of the total and comprises of various revenue categories that are less than $50 million. Examples of some of the small revenue categories are grants from the state, federal, or local agencies. Here is a breakdown of how the funds are used by city service areas in the operating budget, and it's across all funds. The city service area integrates core services provided by individual departments into key lines of services. City service areas are made up of multiple departments, and a department can be in multiple city service area. You'll notice that environmental and utility services is the largest CSA with over $1 billion in funding. Close to $500 million accounts for revenue from the sale of electricity and the cost of the San Jose Clean Energy Program. Recycling and garbage services and wastewater management mainly make up the rest of the services in the CSA. The next largest city service area is public safety, with core services being police costs to respond to services, patrol support, and investigative services, as well as fire costs to respond to emergencies. Although you'll see there are 6 city service areas, of which 5 have direct services to the community, all but one, the green one, provides indirect services, which is strategic support. This CSA is made up of departments that provide guidance and support to departments in the other city service areas. Examples of departments are the Human Resources, Information Technology, Public Works, and Finance Department. In the next slide, it shows how many full-time equivalent positions that are in the budget for this year. There's just under 7,000 positions. The total budget is less than the prior year's budget, as the city eliminated a bunch of vacant positions. Close to 2,600 of the positions are in the public safety CSA, of which 1,700 are in the police department and 850 are in the fire department. Neighborhood Services City Service Area has close to 1,500 FTEs and is mainly made up of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services, Library Department, and subsections of Housing, Public Works, and Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. Lastly, Strategic Support has close to 1,100 full-time equivalents, which are mainly in the Public Works Department. This pie chart emphasizes the general fund use by categories. Over half of the costs are for staff costs or personal services. This includes costs for salaries, retirements, and other health benefits for city staff. Non-personal equipment category refers to operating costs which are not related to staff costs, such as supplies, contractual services, utilities, maintaining vehicles, etc. These two categories, the personal service and non-personal equipment categories, make up departmental costs because those are costs associated with running a department. The remaining costs in this pie chart are non-departmental. So you'll see, I'm going to highlight the next one, which is the earmarked reserves and contingency reserve, which make up 19% of the use. Earmarked reserve is money set aside for a specific purpose, such as the budget stabilization reserve, revenue loss reserve, information technology reserve, or workers' compensation / general liability catastrophic reserve. Here's another way to describe how the funding is allocated by function. It's a tree map that will show how money is spent across all funds. The majority is in yellow, which is the community services department, such as airport, environmental services, and clean energy. They are providing direct services to the community. The other expenditure category in purple and the public safety departments, which is in the orange, are pretty similar in size. I think the public safety department is pretty explanatory, and you can see it's made up of police, fire, and then public safety capital projects. And then whereas the other expenditure is made up mainly of earmarked reserves and citywide expenses that I had discussed previously. Now I will briefly discuss the capital budget. There are over 14 capital programs which are listed by city service area in this slide. The capital budget is a plan for capital improvement projects over a 5-year period. The budget for this year is $1.4 billion, and over the 5-year period, it's $4 billion. The budget focuses on renovating, renewing, and expanding city infrastructure that serves the critical day-to-day needs of our community, such as roadways, sewer collection and treatment systems, parks and sports fields, fire and police facilities, and airport facilities. For 24-25, investments in the traffic capital program is by far the largest, and then airport, parks and community facilities, and then the water pollution control plant. Those 4 programs alone make up 63% of the capital budget. So what do we consider when we're trying to balance the budget? There are so many competing community and organizational needs, and so we must balance those while ensuring that the resources of all city funds remain in balance and thoughtfully deployed. While the budget development process is informed by a variety of factors, the inputs shown are the key drivers that provide the strategic approach to prioritize community and organizational needs. So I'm going to start with the top left, which is in orange. The mayor's March budget message for fiscal year 24-25, as approved by the City Council, identified the main investment priorities for the budget process and directed administration to employ budget balancing strategy guidelines, which is the blue, and outlined a number of general approaches to use in the development of the budget. City Council Policy 1.18 and the City of San Jose's budget principles in gray further ensure that administration applied best budgetary practices and worked to align ongoing revenues with ongoing expenditures. Finally, in the purple in the upper right-hand corner, we need to consider City Council or organization priorities previously identified. Grounding us during the budget deliberation process is the consideration of equity. We need to think about how resources are allocated and consider in the decisions who is benefited and who is burdened by our budgetary action or inaction. This includes both the allocation of existing resources and new resources considered when developing the budget. Based on city charter requirements for the budget development process, here are the roles for the mayor, city council, and city manager. So starting from the top, the mayor is charged with delivering a budget message. I referred to it earlier as the March budget message to the city council that includes a statement of fiscal priorities for the following year. And it can also include things like which department, offices, or agencies the mayor proposes to expand or receive budget reductions, and specific recommendations concerning any proposed additions or deletions to the budget. The city council has a major role as well. They are responsible for holding public hearings to consider the mayor's budget message and make any revisions or changes in which the city council deems advisable. They will also review, amend, and approve the city manager's proposed budget, which gets released in April. The city manager is responsible to submit a budget request to mayor and council, and it's included in the 5-year forecast as a budget strategy guidelines. These guidelines include directions such as presenting a balanced budget that can't have more expenditures than what we have in resources. Some other guidelines included is to pose explicit questions about equity and make sure we have reserves to weaken in case the economy weakens or there's unanticipated cost increases. There's a whole bunch of different items under that guideline. And in addition to that, the city manager is supposed to submit a balanced budget for the activities that the city proposes for the ensuing fiscal year, which accurately reflects the recommendations, priorities specified in the budget message as approved by the city council. Lastly, we have a little calendar of the budget development process. We're pretty busy working on the budget from October to June. So you can see the community is involved with between October through March, providing input on budget priorities and directions through direct contact with mayor and city council, community-wide surveys, meetings, and input on the budget message during the public hearings. And then in April through June, the community also has another chance to discuss their thoughts on the proposed budget in the initial and final public hearings on the proposed budget. The mayor and city council, they're very busy as well between October and June. First of all, they're going to review and approve the prior year's annual report. This report kind of gives you a fiscal health of how the funds did, all 140 funds did last fiscal year. And then between January and March, the mayor and city council, they hold budget town hall meetings, priority setting sessions, and then they review the March budget message. And then between April and June, there are budget study sessions, and then there's budget documents that get released, and then they approve the budget in June. Administration, which is really city staff, we're responsible for presenting an annual report on the financial performance of the prior fiscal year. That happens every October. And then we also deliver a preliminary general fund forecast, which will tell us if there's a surplus or a deficit for the upcoming 5-year period. And then we also develop preliminary budget strategies. And then in January through March, this is a really busy period because we work on the 5-year forecast for the general fund. And then we release budgets for the capital improvement program and finalize strategies for the development of the proposed budget. I mean, it's during January and March when we consider all the budget proposals and determine which ones are moving forward and which ones are being killed. And then finally, between April and June, we release the budget, both operating and capital budgets, fees and charges reports, any supplemental information called city manager's budget addendum that is requested by council. And then we respond to any questions that council has on the budget. So in June, the budget is approved and adopted, and then we'll start the process all over again in October. This concludes my presentations. I'm present here today to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay, so then I will open up to commission discussion. Do any commissioners want to speak on the item? Commissioner Vu? Oh, no. I'd like to start by asking a quick question about the investment priorities. And so you mentioned some of the priorities that the mayor identified for the March budget. I wanted to know the timeline of those priorities. Is that for the next upcoming budget? Is that for the next 5 years? Is that for the budget they're looking at that point in time? How long does that investment priority stand for?
If you looked at the March or June budget message, you'd see that the priorities are mainly for the upcoming fiscal year, which in this case would be the 25-26 fiscal year, but it also includes direction to do things that may take longer than a year to accomplish. So sometimes there's some long-term goals that the mayor wants city staff to provide recommendations, and it takes a longer period of time, but it's mainly for the next fiscal year.
Do any other commissioners have questions?
So I want to go back to like, you remember that slide where we talked about use the city services area off funds in millions? You talked a little bit about strategic support. I wanted to know more like, you talked about some businesses that were part of it. What type of guidance do they provide?
So like finance department, it's not a, some of the work they do does not directly impact the public. But if they're doing payroll, that's to generate paychecks for city staff. And you need the city staff to run programs at the preschool or whatnot. So that's an example of indirect. Or human resources. Their staff spends time focusing on training city staff or like recruiting for certain positions. So those don't directly impact communities to the public, to the programs for the public, but we still need their work. It's extremely important.
Do any other commissioners want to speak? Commissioner Pradeep Kumar.
Okay, hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I just had one question in particular. So I noticed that in the pie chart you mentioned for operating budget that $900.6 million was I guess accounted for public safety. I was just wondering if there was a specific initiative or specific initiatives you were going to take regarding like public safety and how you spread the budget for that.
I'm actually scooting back to slide number 10, which had to do with the city charter requirements for public safety or for public budget development. On the right-hand side, there's investment priorities. And it talks, so according to the mayor's budget message for March, the priorities were to increase community safety, right? Reducing unsheltered homelessness, cleaning up our neighborhoods, and attracting investment jobs and housing. Those were the main priorities. So public safety would fall under increasing community safety or reducing unsheltered homeless because perhaps police officers patrol areas where there's a lot of homelessness. So there isn't any particular initiative that I can think of, but there's been a lot of surveys done with our community and public safety is always at the very top. And so that's why most of our resources are there.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Singh.
Yeah, thank you so much for your report. I just have more of a general question. So we were shown on, I think, slide 11, the adopted operating budget for 2024. Relatively, does the spread of these allocated budgets like change from year to year? Like, or does it always look like, oh, public safety is gonna have the most with environmental?
That's a really good question. So I've been working on budgets for over 20 years and it doesn't change much. Public safety is always at the very top and Parks and Recreation is very close after that.
Okay, thank you.
But I would add, that's a good question. So it really depends on what the priorities are. So if for some reason the priorities changed and they wanted to deal with attracting jobs, then it wouldn't be public safety. It would be another city service area called Community and Economic Development. That's important, but it's never risen above public safety.
Commissioner Kuczynski.
I was wondering if you could expand on the strategic support category.
So departments that are in that category are ones that provide indirect services. So like I'm in the city manager's budget office. I don't work with the public directly, but you need me to pull together numbers on, make projections such as how much revenue the city is going to receive or how to allocate the money among the different priorities. Whereas the other city service areas like public safety, there's going to be a police officer that will interact directly with the public. And so those are direct lines of services. Another example would be like our information technology department. They are the ones that manage the computers, right? what type of environment that we have for our technology. And so that's not something that the public really deals with directly, but we need computers in order to do our work so that we can serve you better.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vu.
Hello. Thank you for your report. I was wondering about like the budget development calendar shows like extensive community involvement. What methods have been most effective in gathering meaningful community input, particularly from traditionally underrepresented communities?
We gather community input, the council gathers community input at practically every single council meeting. And so the community is present to provide perhaps they're against adding a park in a certain neighborhood or adding perhaps they are against adding interim housing in their neighborhood. They're going to speak up and tell you what they think. This item is being put forth before council. And so they can always provide public input, like in these meetings here or any council meeting or any council committee meetings. We have surveys, which we have found to be extremely helpful on a quarterly basis. We're asking the public, how do you feel about, how satisfied are you with the services provided at libraries? So we're constantly doing surveys as well, or there's town hall meetings where the public or residents in that district are invited to come and provide their input. There's lots of opportunities for you to speak out.
Sorry. Following up on that, I was wondering, because not everybody really has like the chance to come out to these budget town halls, to come out to these city council meetings. So how are you guys looking at the groups of people that aren't typically coming out to these things or aren't made aware of these things? And how are you guys like marketing it to them? Are you guys just reaching out to them?
That's a really good question. It's because of the nature of what I do. I don't know what mayor and council do to market, to gather if someone cannot attend. I mean, for a while we were taking public comment over Zoom. But I think also you can contact your council member directly, right, via email. But I don't know exactly. I can get back to you if you'd like. Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I had another question about future implications for the budget. And so I know that you've given us data on this year's budget, and I was wondering if there were any trends on any departments or just any overall like instances where you're seeing, okay, something's changing with how people want their budget to be spent in the city.
I would tell you that one thing I can see for the upcoming years is that when we do our forecasts and when we're looking at the revenues and expenditures, it's not looking good. There's going to be deficits, and we're working on that right now. My office is working on that right now because we know that our expenditures for like salary costs, for staff costs are going to be more expensive. And then that we know that because the economy is not as strong as it was, we're not getting as much revenue. So it's going to be very difficult to balance the budget. And so we're going to really be relying on what those priorities are to kind of move us in the right direction, because there's going to be a lot of people asking for, a lot of departments, a lot of residents asking to fund certain things, and there's just not going to be enough money. So over the next 5-year period, we're already anticipating a deficit for the next 3 years. So it's not going to be pretty at all.
Got it. Thank you. Commissioner Vu.
Sorry. You mentioned like the deficit for the following years that come. I was wondering, have you guys looked into any strategies that are in place to manage these costs while maintaining competitive compensation for city employees?
You like asking the hard questions. It's really hard because I've been working with the city for so long, and there was a big period of time where we cut a lot of services and we cut a lot of positions. We cut wages. People were pretty unhappy about that. And so as we look towards another deficit, we know that you're going to have to do something. In order to have a balanced budget, you're going to have to cut costs somewhere. So we're looking at all strategies available. So for this year's budget, we cut a whole bunch of vacant positions because first of all, it's something where the public feels it, but maybe not as much, because if somebody wasn't doing that job, then you're not going to feel it as much if we get rid of that position entirely. And so we're looking at ways that anything and all things that we can do to save money. So even though this year our budget is balanced, we're already getting ready to tell departments that, hey, you guys got to look at how you're spending your money because you need to cut back. You need to prioritize who gets hired because we're going to turn around and probably cut a position. So we're asking departments to be very mindful about their expenditures. And at the same time, we're also looking for new revenue sources. Maybe the city would be interested in a sales tax measure or bond measure. But anything to kind of increase our revenues, cut our expenses, that's the only way to go. We've also set aside rainy day funds, which will help as well to kind of weather things.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kuczynski.
Okay, so with what the mayor has been saying he wants to do, which is focus on housing, as most people say is the problem of San Jose, and I agree. Do you think the budget is going to be more skewed over time towards housing as people try and combat it?
Another good question. There's a fine line there because we've been putting in so much money to address the unhoused. And there comes a point where it's going to be at the detriment to our other city services. And so I think that this budget year, the upcoming one for 25-26 is going to be really hard because you want to address the unhoused, but at the same time, we don't have as much revenues, right? And our existing costs are more expensive. So council is going to have to give us direction on how to proceed. Maybe we don't build that interim housing site or we change the services that are delivered so that it's cheaper. I'm not sure, but there's, it's a really tough choice that needs to be made because besides public safety, homelessness and addressing it is at the very top of that list as well. But it's costly, extremely costly, and we're not moving as fast as we can. It's expensive.
Do you think it's feasible to say that it can go up from here, or can it only go back down?
You mean our investments?
Yes, in housing.
It can always go up because we're not doing enough, in my opinion, to fight it. There's still so many homeless people on the streets, right? So we could always invest more money, but at what cost for other city services?
Thank you.
So talking about the things that are going up in expenses, what are the things that are being looked at as sort of those, because it's a trade-off, right? And so if you're going to spend more money here, you're going to have to take some away. So what are the services or departments, or if you have the opportunity to say so, that are being looked at as sort of being a little bit defunded or taking money away from those things in the future to fund those new areas?
So what departments are directed to do is so in mid-December, the city manager will give a direction memo. And she will outline if there are going to be reduction targets that are coming up. And so let's pretend you're the library department. You're going to get a reduction target. And so departments have a month or so to, hopefully they've already started thinking about it, but they have a month or so to develop budget proposals. And we're looking for their expertise to tell us, okay, which service is not as vital as other ones. At the same time, we're getting input from the public. We're getting, the other people have ideas as well that we're also considering. So it's like a mesh of a whole bunch of different ideas, and all those ideas get put forth in budget proposals. And then that's what we bring forward as a proposed budget. But yeah, departments should be thinking about, we've already said before that there's going to be a deficit next year, and it was at 40 million, and we think it's already increased, if not doubled. And so departments should be thinking about how they want to cut services.
Commissioner Vu.
Sorry. Hi. So I was looking at the strategic support category, and since it takes up, or it's like number 3 for budgeting and number of positions, I was wondering how you guys evaluate the efficiency of these support services, because they aren't as tangible as somebody that works in like Parks and Recs or like the library.
I think we're very important. We are very important, but you're right. But you're right. You're right. So actually, if you looked in the budget book, there's a lot of performance measures in every single department, in every single city service area. So that kind of tells us the, how we're doing with specific outcomes and key goals, and there's performance metrics. So how long does it take us to, respond to a 911 call? These performance metrics kind of help us decide, how efficient staff is with their time or how successful a program is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would add though that, usually when there's budget cuts, we always look at the strategic support services first, because like you said, they're not frontline services, but you still need us to create paychecks or to, train the staff on certain things.
Got a question. Given that you know the numbers pretty well and you're pretty familiar with the budget process, I wanted to know your personal opinion on I don't know if you're allowed to give personal opinion, but if you are, if there is anything that you would like to see included in future budgets or things that you would like to see further funded or just opportunities for growth in the budget that you can see, just given your familiarity with it.
What I wish is that departments would be more thoughtful on what they put forward as budget proposals. Because they have budget targets to reach. And so sometimes they just throw up proposals in there, even though it's something that we cannot do. And so you have to be mindful of what will be politically appropriate to put forward. And then at the same time, make sure that you're considering equity, right? Because they may say, cut this small program, but what's the impact on the community? And so I wish that departments were more thoughtful in what they put forward. At the same time, also, when they're asking for investments for additional money, again, don't ask just to ask. There's got to be a purpose, a goal that you want to reach.
Commissioner Vu.
So my question is actually about like the business or like the operating budget, like tax makeup, in the general fund. And I was wondering, given that San Jose is located in Silicon Valley, I see that the business tax only represents around like 4.1% of the general fund sources. So I was wondering what strategies exist to potentially expand this revenue, given like our location.
I cannot say, just because the business tax, I would have to speak with somebody from the finance department that would have a better idea on how to answer that question.
All right, thank you.
Do any other commissioners have questions? Okay, thank you so much for your time. We will now be moving on to item 5B, Informational National League of City Centennial City Summit given by Vice Chair Andrew Liu.
All right, speaking of important investments, this is another one of them that we get the opportunity to be a part of, and it's the Centennial City Summit. And I'm excited to get the opportunity to share my experience at the National League of Cities Centennial City Summit today with you guys. Okay, so today I'll take you through the following topics. What is the National League of Cities? What is the YEF, Youth Education and Families Institute? What goals our Children Youth Services Master Plan and YEF Institute have in common, and key takeaways and discussion points that were taken out of the YEF Council meeting. We'll start with what the National League of Cities is. So the National League of Cities is a nonpartisan advocacy organization that works to represent cities, towns, and villages across the United States. And most importantly, it provides resources, networking opportunities, and support to local government leaders in helping them address some of their community challenges and needs. Another key aspect of National League of Cities is its ability to work with our federal government counterparts in supporting local city needs towards federal bodies. As part of the National League of Cities, there's a branch which is the Youth Education and Families Institute that works to provide cities support in addressing specifically challenges that are faced by youth and their families, including education, health, city engagement, economic well-being, to name a few. It's also made up of the Council on Youth, Families, and Education, which is made up of elected mayors, council members, senior city staffers, and 4 youth delegates. It serves as a platform to access research and initiatives on key issues that relate to this area, while providing a space and forum for cities to share ideas and to share best practices on existing programs and initiatives. Let's jump into the common goals and missions that the YEF Institute has with the Children Youth Master Plan. So the Children Youth Master Plan and the YEF objectives both have a really core aspect in providing and enhancing opportunities for young people. Both share objectives with goals aiming to access or increase access to essential services, ensuring positive youth development, and addressing key issues that affect young populations. With the time we have today, I've narrowed it down to the objectives that we as a youth commission are currently working on to match with the Children Youth Master Plan. The first is strengthening career and education pathways. Both the YEF Institute and the Children Youth Master Plan share a key objective in increasing meaningful employment opportunities for communities, including in STEM-related fields, particularly for those who identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color and from traditionally disadvantaged backgrounds. Another focus is a focus on health and well-being. This supports the early education framework, health and economic opportunities to ensure that young people eventually down the road lead fulfilling and productive lives. Next, we'll be talking about specific points that were shared with the YEF Council, with its members in discussion and best practices from cities. And the first one is expanding career pathways to all. In San Antonio, Texas, which has a rough population of 1.5 million, has a program called Next Level Centers. And this program stems from a local government initiative that operates within high-need community centers in high-need neighborhoods. And in these centers, young people can access one-on-one coaching support, reconnecting them with education and career opportunities. Its City Department of Human Services partners with Goodwill and Communities in Schools to open the center in 2019. And specifically, some of the things that make this program and that makes this on-the-ground center really unique is its ability to provide personalized support. So a young person who will walk into this designated facility will have an opportunity to seek a life coach and an education coach to provide that personalized support. Another aspect of the program that was unique was its engagement of young people within the justice system, and it partners with the City of San Antonio's municipal court to ensure a asset-based alternative for justice-involved youth. And finally, it also helps tackle the issue of homelessness. For homeless youth, the program provides referrals to transitioning living arrangements for youth 18 to 24 in partnership with community-based organizations. Another example of career and pathway opportunities, it's an expansion towards employment which is a really important aspect with the Children and Youth Master Plan. Also, in Charlotte, North Carolina, which has a population of 870,000 roughly, the mayor's youth employment program exists since 1984, and high school students 16 or older can apply for paid summer work with local private and nonprofit organizations. The city manages the application and does job placements, and in 2022 placed more than 200 youth in jobs, earning a collective $524,000 over the summer. Regarding educational opportunities, the city of Chicago has a model that is very successful in its partnership with its local school district. Project Exploration was a program that was founded as a response to social justice concerns about female, minority, and low-income individuals in the sciences. Project Exploration partners with Chicago Public Schools to reach more than 1,000 students yearly, 85% of whom are from low-income backgrounds, and provides this STEM exposure. 60% of the graduates who participate and have finished the program have intended or have already pursued a STEM-related education. 1/3 are employed in the science-related fields, and 85% of the participants reported that the program, most importantly, introduced them to opportunities that they might have not otherwise considered. And lastly, this is a really important topic on health and well-being with our work here with Blue Zones, and a community initiative that the city of Los Angeles is working on is Art to Combat Social Isolation, where the city collaborates with various artists and local communities to host an LA art show that engages different parts of the city, creating spaces in neighborhoods that might feel disconnected. In closing, with the National League of Cities, over the course of those 3 days, I had the opportunity to also share some of that story and some of that journey through our District 5 Youth Advisory Instagram account. And in summary, the National League of Cities is a really valuable platform to continue to engage with. And this is a sentiment that's shared by the city through the active involvement of National League of California Cities at the council level, and it provides a direct channel for meaningful dialogue with other city officials while allowing us to collaborate on solutions that face young people. And to put it simply, our involvement saves us time and money that could have been spent elsewhere. I think one of the most personal takeaways from that conference, about 300 youth commissioners and youth advisory council members showed up. And one of the most important things that I think I've taken away from that is the role that we play as a big city, where many of the programs that we have and have invested in are thought through thoroughly and have shown effectiveness. And it's our role as a big city to also share those opportunities to other cities that might need them. So it's a conversation and it's a platform where we can exchange those thoughts and ideas both ways. And I'm happy to continue these conversations and follow up on some of my work on the National League of Cities at an individual level too. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay, we'll move on to commission discussion. Commissioner Kucharewski.
Okay, first of all, on that last page, it said next up. What was that about?
Yeah, so as part of my role as a youth delegate on the Council of Families, Education, and Youth, there is 2 conferences that are required for my attendance. One of them was City Summit in Tampa, Florida, and the other one is our Congressional City Summit, which we held in Washington, D.C. in March.
Okay, I have another question. Of the initiatives you observed at the summit, which of those do you think are most applicable for the city of San Jose?
There are lots of programs that various cities have taken, and I think what I found was interesting was that lots of councils, since they were a part of smaller cities, don't necessarily have a budget for it. So they really engage with community partners in a way that allows them to continue the work that they do without necessarily a budget. So I think a takeaway that we can definitely have from those discussions is, our momentum in building some of those strategic partnerships with external organizations that also, potential are working on the same things that we feel are really important. And also, asking them to invest in us as well in our capacity to do some of those things.
Okay, so you want to focus more on the community aspect than the within the city system.
That was a takeaway.
That's the takeaway. Okay. And then from those initiatives, which one did you like the most? Which one appealed to you the most as the most creative or just interesting?
There was a city that I can't recall. It's a city somewhere in Texas. Um, um, and what they did was they partnered with their hospital counterparts, and they really worked to leverage the community outreach base that was already there from the hospital, and they kind of conducted this like a care package in partnership with some of their hospitals, and that came, sure, it came at a cost from the hospital's perspective, but it came free to the city and its youth members.
All right, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Arroyo.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you for your presentation. It's very exciting. My question was that, you saw a lot of like these examples that you provided for us. I think my biggest question was there anything that you saw from one city or multiple cities that you thought was very similar to something that we do? And did you like share anything from our city that we do?
Yeah, I mean, the concept that we as a youth commission have youth advisory councils is something that is a defining and very different factor compared to other youth councils. Another piece, I think what I see other cities do is they're able to implement some of the best practices of every city and involve them into a single program or initiative that a city is working on. And I mentioned a lot of them, and we have things that are in common, things like apprenticeships, internships. There was a particular city in Washington, D.C. that focused on that on the ground, like San Antonio, Texas, had an on the ground facility. You repurposed youth centers or community centers that were not in use or not as productive in bringing people in the door, and they repurposed it into a re-engagement center where they provided some of those educational and career resources to those high need communities. So it's really a physical presence in those communities, and sure, it's definitely a significant investment, but it's a really cool idea that we can take pieces in and talk about.
Wow, interesting. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Vu.
I was wondering how your experience was at the conference. What was your favorite moment What was a defining moment at the conference and would you recommend? Wait,
Yeah.
ignore that.
Thank you. This is I'm gonna say this without any realistic expectation of having this go through practice. I wish it was something that you all could have attended. I think Vallejo was the only other California city that attended and brought their whole youth commission too. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is that you'll meet people with various different opinions, and we say that and we engage with our population that may have different opinions than us, but to see someone from North Carolina or from Oklahoma who share a different view of how young people are supported through their councils is just a perspective that's really unique. And to have and to share some of our programs, career and education, about youth commission or youth advisory council, and having young people come up to you and say, yeah, I thought that was a really cool initiative that you're doing in your city. Why don't I bring it to mine, right? That's amazing. And the National League of Cities is only one of many platforms that is being used by the city of San Jose. The city of San Jose also participates in the United States Mayor's Conference, the California League of Cities, and to have a young person especially represent San Jose at this capacity really sets us apart from other in the area.
All right, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, thank you, Andrew, for your report. We will move on to section 6, reports and informational only, starting with council liaisons report from Alex Dersh.
Hello, hi Youth Commission, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Awesome, thank you, cool. I'm gonna share my screen to present the report that I have, which you all also have a copy of. So I'm going to give a little overview of the Consolidated Annual Homelessness Report and the Implementation Plan Update that City Council heard and accepted on November 5th, earlier this month. The report, as I abbreviate here, is a summary of homelessness response actions and strategies broken down by categories based on the topics and goals of those actions. The update, meanwhile, is a list of specific actions that the city is taking to implement something called the Community Plan to End Homelessness, which is a collective strategic plan for addressing homelessness in the county that is being implemented together by the city, county, and local agencies and organizations. Going into the report, it's divided into 7 categories of different types of actions that the city is taking across departments. Below, I've provided a quick overview of what each section is about, and I encourage you all to dive into the report yourselves to check out more details about all the things that the city is doing. The first section is housing and support. So how the city is creating more interim housing, shelter, and permanent housing to prevent and end homelessness and reach the goal of functional zero, which is to mean each night the number of shelter options meets the needs of the population. The second section is encampment management and action, how the city addresses impacts in the community associated with homelessness, such as preventing and cleaning up trash and biowaste, and removing unhoused people from certain designated areas based on safety and health risk assessments. The third section is about lived-in and oversized vehicles, how the city is beginning new concentrated actions to address live-in and oversized vehicles such as RVs. Staff just completed a survey of all lived-in and oversized vehicles in the city. And as an FYI, that survey results were completed after this report was done, so the map in the report is not what this is referring to. And in 2025, staff will begin prioritizing specific locations of where vehicles are for ticketing, towing, and connecting people to housing. Section 4 is about environmental leadership, how the city is prioritizing encampment removals and cleanups near waterways specifically to reduce the trash and biowaste from encampments going into those waterways and polluting our creeks, streams, and ultimately the San Francisco Bay. This is so that the city complies with our municipal regional stormwater permit, which we're required to comply with, required to do in order to be in compliance with the laws of the Federal Clean Water Act. Section 5 is on economic impacts and opportunities, specifically ways in how the city is securing land for interim housing through purchases and leases, how we're concentrating unhoused resident outreach in the downtown area, and how we're helping homeless or at-risk youth and adults enter the workforce. On data and technology, this section talks about how the city is better utilizing data for homelessness response through a homelessness data consolidation project, where the city will aggregate data across departments and external partners into a single standardized database. It will have both a secure internal access point and a public-facing access interface. So for example, some kind of website you could go to check out different data points about our city's homelessness response. And then the final section talks about other significant department roles, how the city is addressing homelessness in other significant ways, such as assisting households at risk for losing energy connection, ensuring stores prevent shopping cart abandonment, and helping private property owners address encampments. The next portion of this report that council heard was an implementation plan update. Now, this update is organized into categories, subcategories, strategies, sub-strategies, categories, and then specific city actions within each. And each one, it lists a action's prior fiscal year goal and the outcome of that goal, as well as the current fiscal year goal. The three main strategies that the actions are broken down into are: 1, addressing root causes of homelessness through system and policy change. Strategy 2, expand homelessness prevention and housing programs to meet the need. And strategy 3, improve quality of life for unsheltered individuals and create healthy neighborhoods for all. I've also included a summary of how many goals were met in the prior fiscal year and how many were not met in the prior fiscal year. In regards to next steps for the city, the report and the update describe various actions and goals that city staff have in the current fiscal year. Therefore, staff will return to council with status reports periodically over the coming year on their actions, depending on which department is responsible and what the topic is. Council will receive another version of this consolidated annual report and implementation plan update next year. On November 5th, council also asked that additional criteria be added for whether to evaluate when to remove an encampment, directed staff to distribute a code of conduct for encampments to be distributed in December of this year, explicitly included oversized vehicles in who's covered under this code of conduct, and directed staff to create an informational memo that would be released in April of next year about initial progress on code of conduct enforcement and on how the oversized vehicle regulation pilot program is going. And then those are my references of the different memos that were made up to make these reports. And a big thanks to all the staff and the departments who were making it possible. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioners who would like to ask questions? I had a question on the youth aspect of this, and I was wondering if there were any goals or priorities that the city set to meet youth homelessness, and if there is any progress that has been made on that, or if that's a potential future consideration for council, and just any metrics that you might have on youth homelessness.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. I think when it comes to homelessness impacting youth, I'd have to look in and see what data the city has on the age of the people experiencing homelessness. I do know that the programs that they have serve youth as well, and there's also many families, of course, who are homeless. And in the economic impacts and opportunities section in the report, it talks a bit more about how the city specifically is trying to help at-risk youth or youth who are already homeless to enter the workforce. But if there's any other kinds of specific targeted programs towards youth and youth homelessness, I'd be more than happy to check on those and send those to you.
Got it. Thank you so much. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Arroyo.
Hello, thank you for your report. I was looking at number 3, and I thought it was very interesting considering that the school that I attend has had issues in the past with RV parkings and stuff, and I was wondering if you knew the specific areas that they were going to prioritize with these ticketing and towing.
I don't know right now what specific geographies they've chosen, but as you point out, and you're right there, a lot of these are around school zones. But I can check and see when we'd be able to have like a specific map of that.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kuczynski.
So on the strategy 3 category, how they have so many goals unmet compared to the rest of the strategies, what are some of the reasons you guys have identified for this being harder to achieve compared to the other goals for strategy 1 and 2?
Yeah, that's, I think that's a complicated question about it. And a lot of these things, there's particular people in the different departments who would be able to speak to them more specifically. But I'd have to say, I think one thing I could mention is in the context of the budget discussion that was previously mentioned, a lot of these issues are very challenging and very uphill. And our best efforts, sometimes progress is really difficult. And the particular challenges of the actions that we try and do for improving the quality of life for people and creating healthy neighborhoods for Hull, so many of them take a lot, either in resources or time. And I'd encourage you to go in and check in what in that portion of the update, all the specific actions listed. It's gonna say a little bit about why some of them were unmet too, and it's gonna have details about which departments were responsible as well. So those will be opportunities for you to dive in more on those too.
All right, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Liu.
Thank you. Not too long ago, Beautify SJ provided a report to the Youth Commission about its programs and initiatives. And one of the things that we talked about was the cleanups and how we could reduce trash and littering and make that long term, because those spots that were cleaned up were, again, trashed months after they've cleaned up. And one of the things that was talked about here was environmental leadership. So my question is, what conversations are being had at the council level that focuses on long-term addressing trash and littering?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd say, and I would encourage you to check out the council meeting, if you haven't already, about the discussion that they had. A lot of that is going to come up in the budget discussions coming next year. What kind of priorities council is going to give to the city on what to spend in regards to cleaning up the city. I'd have to say that that Beautify challenge and that report that they released, it's also one of those difficult issues. We've been cleaning up a lot, but what kind of long-term strategies we can to reduce the amount of blight or trash. There are some things that we can do to prevent it. Some of it is in the context of this homelessness report. That's the reason for those encampment removals and cleanups near the waterways. That'll be a big impact in being able to prevent that from entering the waterways to begin with. But that's definitely one of those challenges that the city is continuously going to have to be asking itself.
Thank you.
Got it. Any other commissioners? Okay, thank you for your report. We will now move on to Parks and Recreation Neighborhood Services report from Lauren Box.
Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. Give me just a moment and I will share my screen. Perfect. Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Lauren Box, Recreation Superintendent. for the Department of Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, and I'm happy to be here this evening to present to you an update on all that we've been up to. To kick us off, a few department updates when it comes to recruitments. So we are actively recruiting for the division manager for Beautify SJ, as the commission just shouted them out. We're also recruiting for the community services supervisor for Beautify SJ. Both of those are going to close on the 29th of November. And then we are always actively looking for and recruiting for student and graduate interns, and those applications are always ongoing. Oops, forgive me. In terms of some department updates, some very exciting things. Beginning December 23rd, several of our community centers will have modified hours due to the holidays. That information will be shared out shortly and will be available at all of your favorite community centers and posted on the department's social media page if you're interested. In some exciting award-winning news, the third annual Catalyzing Change Awards by Catalyze SV, PRNS's Viva Parks and Emma Prush Park Farm All-Inclusive Playground was nominated for Catalyzing Placemaking Award. Emma Prush won first place. If you haven't been out to the newly remodeled park out at Emma Prush Park and Farm, I highly encourage you to check it out. If you drive on 280, you can actually see the chicken from the freeway. It's very cool. In the spirit of other exciting news, the Metro Best of Silicon Valley awarded Viva Kaya SJ the bronze for Best Festival in San Jose, and Best Outdoor Art Festival in San Jose as well. And Viva Kaya was also awarded the editor's pick for Best Day to Know Your Way Around San Jose. In other exciting news from the Recreation Division, as I've mentioned in the past, our 2025 scholarship application is now available at your local community center, or you can view it online at at sanjoseca.gov. We encourage families that are in need of scholarship to apply early before the summer season in particular to ease the burden of registration a little bit. Also, our winter 2025 classes are now open. Those classes are going to be starting sometime after the new year. They're all staggered and all unique depending on the type of class that you're registering for. And in the spirit of the holidays, we have quite a few holiday celebrations taking place across the city. Registration is required for some of those. Information for all of those unique events can be found on sjregistration.com, or you can check out the various community center Facebook pages and or the department social media page as well for more details. For families looking for a safe space for their kiddo during the holiday season while their school's out on winter break, several of our community centers and park locations will be offering holiday break camps for those who are interested. And there is still some scholarship available if that's also a need of yours. One thing to highlight, as it is Thanksgiving week, our department has put together in support with community partners a list of venues throughout the city that are offering meals for those that are looking for that, or resources for food access. That information can be found again on the department Facebook page and also on the department website. Within Community Services Division, our Beautify SJ team is now accepting applications for its grant program. This is in cycle 7. So those applications are going to be due on Monday, December 9th of this year. So any neighborhood associations or community groups that are looking to, beautify their respective neighborhood are encouraged to apply early and reach out if they have any questions to the department. In the new year, if you're looking to give back, our Beautify SJ team is doing a cleanup or a dumpster day, on January 25th at Farm and Rubino Drive. So great time to clean out your house after the holiday season of unwanted items instead of leaving it on the side. Within the Community Services Division, our San Jose Youth Empowerment Alliance took 12 of their youth to the Latino Summit Conference. And also in very exciting news, our San Jose Youth Empower Alliance team is finalizing their digital arts room. This will be a space for youth that are interested in photo photo editing and music mixing. So those details, once it's finally ready and accessible to the youth in San Jose, we'll be sure to share that out with the commission as well. Within our Parks Division, some very exciting news out at Bramhall Park. The tennis courts have been revitalized. So now there are 6 brand new courts, that are ready for public to play, whether that's tennis or pickleball, they're ready for action. And just to highlight that each Sunday, our park staff is out in different parks every Sunday with the goal of helping each park sparkle and shine. We'll have one on December 1st at Elaine Richardson Park if you're looking for a nice outdoor activity to start off the holiday season. Also, our friends at Lake Cunningham Action Sports Park have their Friday Night Lights event that runs from 3 to 9 p.m. Weather is always a factor this time of year, so plan accordingly. Those hours are extended from their normal operation. You still do have a daily admission fee of $10 to ride within the park. And then lastly, like I mentioned previously, our friends in the Parks Division are offering a winter Camp San Jose. So if you're looking for a safe space for your kiddo to go during this holiday season, more information can be found at sjregistration.com, or you can contact the park directly. And with that, I have nothing else, but I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions? I had a question about the San Jose Youth Empowerment Alliance digital room. What is that? I just don't know what that entails. Do you think?
Sure. So I don't have a ton of information, but I can definitely elaborate on what I do have. So the San Jose Youth Empowerment Alliance staff are creating a digital room with a bunch of digital accessibility. So they're going to have computers with photo editing software and filmmaking software for youth to kind of dabble and express themselves creatively. They'll also have sound mixing equipment for those that are interested in, I'll say, the DJ realm and exploring that as well. But I can definitely get you guys more information if you are interested.
Got it. Thank you. That sounds fun.
Thank you.
Other commissioners? Okay, thank you so much. We will now move on to San Jose Library Report from Vidya Clumby.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Vidya Kilambi from the library. The library is proud to participate in Giving Tuesday on December 3rd by encouraging every member of the public to make a difference in the community by becoming a library volunteer. Learn how you can join the Giving Tuesday movement at San Jose Public Library by visiting sjpl.org/givingtuesday. The library and SJSU King Library invite you to join us in supporting over a dozen local authors during our 12th annual Local Lit event on Saturday, December 7th from 2 to 4:30 p.m. at the King Library, room 255 on the second floor. We'll enjoy light refreshments and snacks while we listen to local authors share their stories and experiences in writing and publishing their work. The authors will also host a Q&A session, and they'll have copies of their books for sale. This event is free and open to everyone. For more details, including a list of participating authors, please visit sjpl.org/locallit. The winter holidays are fast approaching, which means that the library's winter reading program is here. From December 2nd to January 5th, readers of all ages can participate by logging 4 hours of reading or logging 4 books to qualify for fun grand prizes, including games, toys, and electronics. There are also prizes available for simply registering for the program. SJPL's reading programs support year-round learning and active engagement. The San Jose Public Library is bringing you free and fun celebrations with events for every member of the public to enjoy, and all these events are available on our website. There are a few upcoming holiday closures. The libraries will be closed on Thursday, November 28th and Friday, November 29th for Thanksgiving. They will be closed for Christmas on Tuesday, December 24th and Wednesday, December 25th, and New Year's Day, Wednesday, January 1st. The library's online collection, e-learning resources, and streaming services will not be impacted and will always be available at sjpl.org. That completes my update. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions? Commissioner Vu.
Okay, this isn't related to the report, I guess, but when I was younger, I used to participate in the like reading books during the summer program, and then you like if you read a certain amount of books, you get like a prize or something. And I was wondering if you guys still do that or if you guys are planning to do that.
No, we do that every summer. We also do one in the winter during the winter holidays, and that one begins next week.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners? Okay, thank you so much for your report. We will now move on to the Commissioner Chair report. So the first thing that I'd like to bring up is that our next general meeting will be on January 27th, but we do have two meetings that come before that. So we do have the Budget Summit meeting, which will happen for the planning of the retreat. Sorry, the retreat will happen on December 9th. The meeting will begin, like I texted in the group chat, at 4:30, and it acts as a normal and paid meeting. So if you come for less than 50%, you won't receive the $200 stipend, but if you do come for more than 50%, then you will receive the $200 stipend. The other thing I'd like to note is that the survey officially closes at the end of around winter break. It was initially supposed to close on December 9th, which it was the day of our retreat, but we are extending the date to get more responses. We currently have 309 responses for our survey, which is great. Keep up the hard work. Keep on advertising it. It'd be great if we could get it out in schools, to your yaks, anywhere that you can reach. With that said, we will now move on to commissioner reports per city district, starting with District 1, Commissioner Mishra.
Hey guys, I have a couple of updates regarding my District 1 Youth Advisory Council. So a couple weeks ago, my Vice Chair Yuvraj and I met with the San Jose State University professor, Richard Coase, from the Department of Urban and Regional Planning to discuss our transportation memorandum. We then worked with his urban planning research team last week for Envision SJ 2040, where we went to several neighborhoods in Saratoga and collected data on roadway conditions and safety hazards to investigate how the implementation of urban villages could impact transportation efficiency in these areas, and I guess also how we could address the safety concerns for residents. Apart from that, as for our past meetings, we are currently in the process of drafting our work plan for this year and finalizing the policies and events we plan to host. And we're also planning on inviting the vice mayor to attend one of our meetings either next month or in January to get her feedback and advice on our projects. And that is all from me. Thank you.
District 2, Commissioner Pradeep Kumar.
Okay, hi everyone. I have a couple of updates regarding my District 2 Youth Advisory Council and outreach in general. So starting off, we had our second Youth Advisory Council meeting yesterday, November 24th, where we went over officer positions and dedicated most of our time to our work plan, which will be finalized in our next meeting, which is set to happen on the weekend of December 15th. And yeah, my YAC members had a lot of interesting ideas, so I'm excited to see where this year takes us. On the outreach front, I spent the last couple of weeks emailing schools and administrations, and just recently emailed council member offices, and we'll send a follow-up email to them in the next 2 weeks. And if you guys could continue to promote the survey by reposting our Instagram post that Amia made and spreading the word to your YAC and the schools your YAC members attend, that would be great. Also, just word of mouth is another great way to promote the survey. Yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you. District 3, Commissioner Sanchez.
Not too many updates other than wait, sorry. I talked to my YAC about the survey that we're kind of talking about, and we had our first ad hoc meeting for I forgot what my ad hoc is called. The environment. And then I'm working on either adopting a park or working on a cleanup for St. James Park. And yeah, I'm trying to get other YACs to join in. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. District 4, Commissioner Arroyo.
Hello, happy Monday. Okay, so since our last meeting, I had my first and second Yak meeting and they went very well. I'm slowly getting to know all my Yak members. There's a lot of them, but I will reach that point. We have been for the last meeting we did team breakouts and our work plan for this year is pretty much solidified. I'm really excited for all the ideas that they had to offer and they're all very ambitious. So I'm excited for that. We do have a team bonding plan December 11th at the SAP Center. Thank you to Mr. Cohen's office. On top of that, we do have a planned holiday drive in collaboration with Independence's ASB. That's also me. And so Independence will be handling the food portion of the drive, and Euphoriac will be handling the clothing part of the drive. We're currently trying to get more schools involved in that. And we are also working on a environmental conference with District 7. And so I have my environment team leads working on that with him right now. And our next meeting is December 1st. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. District 5, Commissioner Liu.
On the District 5 part, we recently had 3 virtual leadership Yak meetings to talk about and focus on career education and blue zones, current initiatives to create that impact. We're also engaging with the East Side Peace Coalition to continue conversations about how Eastside youth can be supported, and we're working to push the survey out to District 5 communities, both middle school and high schools. And then, of course, earlier this month, we had the opportunity to engage in Florida with the Cities Summit in Florida with our National League of Cities role.
Thank you. District 6, Commissioner Bonsall.
Okay, guys, happy early Thanksgiving. I just want to say I'm really grateful to work with all of you guys, and I hope you have a great week with your families. On the District 6 side, we're part of the Gender Violence Ad Hoc Committee, so we're planning our meeting, or not our meeting, we're planning our event for early next year. So that's been fun. We might have a meeting for the D6 Yak in December, but that's still kind of tentative, dependent on where people are traveling and stuff like that. On the communication side, we've also been doing a lot of survey outreach. So if you guys, like Neha said, could repost it from your Yak accounts, we have a post up. So that'd be great. We're just trying to get as many people to respond to our survey through social media as possible. But yeah, per usual, if you need anything, let me know. I can post and create stuff for your Yaks. But yeah, have a great week.
Thank you. District 7, Commissioner Vu.
Hello, everybody. So since the last meeting, we've had 2 in-person Yak meetings. And currently we still are planning the environmental conference with District 4, and we actually secured a partnership with Stanford School of Sustainability, so that's really neat. We're also gonna have a Yak holiday party at my house on December 19th, I believe, or the 21st. It depends on what my Yak members vote on. We also were able to attend the community planning at Saratoga Park with Vice Mayor Kame's office on November 9th, and we're currently talking about how we want to plan the Creative Futures Fair set for March 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. District 8, Commissioner Munoz.
My report I have for right now is that I've helped make calls for Domingo Candelas for his voting, his votes, I guess, basically. And then we had a dumpster day / litter pickup on November 9th at Welch Park. Oh no, not Welch Park, my bad, at Orfeld. And we also had a food distribution at Welch Park on November 14th. And we will also be having a volunteer recognition award on December 6th for all the people that have been coming to Welch Park and the Orfeld cleanups. So we'll be having an award ceremony. Do not know where yet, and do not know when. Actually, no, when. Yeah, I do not know where though, but we will be having one. And we will also be having a toy draft on December 21st, too. So if anyone would like to come out and help out, would be much appreciated. And have a good rest of your week with your families, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. District 9, Commissioner Singh.
Yeah, so happy early Thanksgiving to everyone. From the last meeting, we've had one YAC meeting online and we're about to delegate roles. We met with the environmental club at Lee and we are planning a restoration event or native species restoration project similar to what we did last year. And I also sat on the environmental ad hoc meeting and we are laying down the groundwork for that. So that's pretty much it for my report.
Yeah, so for my yak, I've split my yak into 3 groups. There's an environmental group, and so they're working on environmental policies. They're trying to get in touch with the Environmental Services Department with the City of San Jose, and they hosted a cleanup at Almaden Lake Park, which is the park we adopted around 2 weeks ago. So I think they got around 10 people to come to that cleanup. Then I have the resources for underserved youth ad hoc, and they're trying to work on a book drive right now. So they're contacting schools to host book drives to collect books. And then they want to build little free libraries in communities that don't have little free libraries right now or don't have as much access to literacy, like libraries in the area, things like that. I also have another ad hoc for civic engagement. And so they've been contacting professors from California universities for an online webinar to inform youth about the impacts of the state ballot and also the federal election. And so we've got a couple responses from professors at SJSU and Santa Clara. On the Youth Commission side, I've been involved with the gender-based violence, or not the gender-based violence. I think it's I forget the name. But I've been involved with that ad hoc and the environmental ad hoc, and I've been looking forward to planning events. I've also helped with the survey. But that concludes my report. Citywide Commissioner Kuczerski.
All right, so we had 3 YAC meetings this month. It's been pretty good. We are electing positions this Sunday, and we're continuing with our work plan. And we're also continuing with our planning events. One of the ones we've been planning is a band showcase night with local youth bands to promote themselves and to be able to have some outreach and explore the career. This one I'm collaborating with Commissioner Vu on. And my YAC is split into subgroups to work on different categories. One of them is public transportation, which is planning to be our focus for the year. We plan on inviting the mayor to our December online meeting. The date is TBD. And this last Saturday, 2 of my YAC members came with me to the park cleanup with the mayor at the Caltrain station in downtown San Jose. And then we have 2 my YAC meetings, Priya and Kyle, here today in the audience. Very proud of them for coming to our meeting. And we're also planning a field trip so that we can go and look at public transit and see what we can do on a more personal level. And that's it.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7, items for future commission meeting agendas. And before we hop into that, I'd just like to note that number 1, for our upcoming winter retreat, which will be going over the budget summit planning, so we get a lot of like free response answers or short answers to our survey. And so basically we get like text and actual words. And so we need to basically tag that data, which means if a response is talking about environment, it might be a full paragraph, but it basically talks about what we can do for the environment. It might be about poverty and homelessness. It might be about transportation. And so we need a couple youth commissioners to go in and help tag that data so that when we go into that planning phase during our winter retreat, we have more information about what youth ideas are and what their priorities are. And so it'd be great if I could get a couple commissioners to help with tagging the data of that survey. And if you want more information, please reach out to me or Emily after this meeting. Also, for project proposals for the future, project proposals are supposed to be sort of like a finalized event idea. And so if you don't, for example, have the budget all the way finalized, or if you don't, for example, have a venue planned out, hold off on submitting those project proposals until you do. And then once you do, we will consider them as a commission. That concludes my spiel. Does anyone have anything that they would like to announce for next meeting, which would be on the Monday, January 27, 2025 meeting that they would like on the agenda? Okay, we will then move on to adjournment. Do we have a motion item, section 9 adjournment? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Gonzalez brings motions to adjourn the meeting.
Any seconds?
Commissioner Vu seconds.
Vote on your screen. Okay, the motion passes anonymously. We will now adjourn our meeting at 8:05 p.m.